Hello, my loves. How are you? I'm gonna do a video journal while I'm driving here because that's what I'm gonna do. Oh my God. I don't know how you're doing right now, but I am processing so much in kind of what feels like out of nowhere because, like, externally, my life is like, I'm reaping the benefits of my fucking hard work and strategy and commitment, and it's still finding its cohesive, workings. It's still, you know what I'm saying, it's still coming together, but I'm definitely doing very well. And internally, I'm going through it so hard right now, and I know why, because when we ask for healing, we get healing. We do the thing. And let me just start here. I'm going to be so non-linear and you're going to love it. I was bawling in my bed for like 2 hours today, and I'm visiting a core wound that I feel like it's like mostly healed. I've done so much fucking healing work on my core wound in this lifetime, but it's not 100% healed. And so I was just like crying in my bed for 2 hours today, and I was like, what? Like, there have been other times where I feel like I can name or identify like what healing is, what it feels like, what it looks like, the process, the inners, the outers, like whatever. I have felt oriented around that. I define that for myself. But as I was just like bawling in bed today, because I asked the universe, I was like, hey, yo, I really want to fucking get this thing all the way healed so that I can be as potent as possible for myself and for others in this lifetime, in my pleasure and in my service. And today, as I was bawling, I was just like, I don't even know what it is. What is healing? What does it mean? What are we doing or not doing or surrendering into? What is happening internally? What is happening energetically and metaphysically and spiritually and emotionally and somatically and physically and mentally, in case I didn't say that one. And I was just like, and of course the irony is that literally doing that, just crying on my bed for 2 hours, was very healing. But it's just such an interesting thing how we kind of, I don't know, like the reason that's healing, I'll define that first, is because it's moving so much energy. And my boo-boo said something really profound the other day that he had heard in a yoga class, which is that presence is not an act, and presence is not, like, it's not an action, and presence is not a performance. Presence is something you surrender into. And so it's like allowing, or maybe it was allow. Presence is something you like allow in greater degrees. And so it's like allowing, being present to allowing what is coming up or what is aching to be felt and maybe seen and maybe heard, but mostly just held. And so, man. And then I'm also intending to go to someone who does somatic and energy work when I get back from Atlanta, because I'm about to go to Atlanta. And then in that case, when you're with a healer, I would define it a little bit differently. The energy or action of healing. It's still the person who is receiving the healing that is ultimately doing the healing, but a healer or a channel is someone who is, just like we were talking about, allowing energy to move, someone who is actually moving the energy for you, and all you have to do is surrender and allow, trust, allow the energy to be moved by that person. And so I look forward to visiting with one of my favorite healers when I get back. I should totally tell you his name. His name is Gustavo, Dream Bear Healing in Los Angeles. I cannot recommend him enough. Yeah, so that has been, and then it's just really interesting. And also, I told you I was going to be very nonlinear. Just like healing is very nonlinear. I'm just starting to get into Vedic astrology for the first time ever. And it's kind of blowing my mind. And in good ways. But also I'm just like coming out of my attachment of identifying as my Western astrology signs, and for that matter, identifying with signs at all. But I do have to say, from what I've learned about Vedic so far, it does feel more accurate and precise, not just because I resonated with what he said, but for a couple of logistical reasons. I don't know if logistical is really what I mean there, but like scientific reasons. One of which is that Vedic astrology calculates or takes into account the fact that the Earth is slowly moving through the solar system. So it's not, the sky map looks different now than it does 2,000 years ago, which is when like the Western astrology map is based off of. And then one of the other reasons why it feels a little bit more precise or accurate is because they basically, like, the value and the real identity is put more succinctly in your moon sign than your sun sign. And as the astrologer that I saw put it, his name is Raj something, I can't remember his last name, but if you want his contact information, please let me know. He's an amazing reader. Is because, like, when you think about it, the sun period, you know, it takes about 30 days or 28 days or whatever, 30 something days, whatever it is, to shift. But the moon is every 2.5 days. So it's like a smaller, it's like less generalized and more specific to your overall character and who you are. But the thing that I found the most fascinating about it was how I was writing 2 words in my journal that I think were really useful. It was prescriptive and it was predictive, more so than Western astrology. Prescriptive meaning, like, here's the prescription, here's your medicine, like, and also I personally really resonate with the concept of karma and past or parallel lives. I prefer the term parallel because time is only experienced in the physical form. So when we're not in the physical form, it's all happening simultaneously. So parallel lives feels more accurate to me. But anyway, karma and parallel lives are some frameworks that I really resonate with, and a lot of the reading that I was given personally and the vibe I get from Vedic in general is that it's really kind of like calculating and putting your whole soul's journey into high key into the lens. And so a lot of what we talked about in my reading was about my karma. These things I knew, but it was an important and refreshing and very objective, just like calculator and map. And again, like, here's the prescription, here's the medicine of what you need to do, and also very predictive. Yeah, it was like, I mean, Western astrology does get predictive, but this just felt, I think they also focus more on, like, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was like there was a period where I was like really, really ruled by Saturn, and now I'm really, really ruled by Venus and all these other things. So there's like phases to your life that feel like this is the mission, or this is the energy that you're kind of like moving through or learning, growing, etc. So yeah, super, super fucking interesting. I'm trying to decide if I want to, I'll share one little thing more personally about that. Oh, well, of course I just want to like share the positive things, but it was really funny because when he was going through my chart, oh no, that's national. When he was going through my chart, so many things were just like so fucking accurate and relevant to the now. Like, to the right now, like to the point where I felt like I was in a psychedelic trip, because yesterday morning I had been journaling about one of the exact things that we were fucking talking through, And it was like he was like reading my journal and interpreting it for me. It was, you know. And the funny thing that I was going to say is that, like, anytime that he would say something either positive or neutral or just kind of more of like, you know, objective observation, I was like, oh yeah, I'm feeling that. And then when he would say something that was like about the shadow characters or like that the challenges that I'm having right now, my like whole demeanor was just like stone wild face being like, well, I don't know about that. But no, that's not true. I was receptive, but it was just funny to hear some of the more challenging parts of my personality reflected back to myself, and specifically as they pertain to my growth. So where do I want to share? There were so many interesting things about my chart, and I'm not going to miss my exit. Good job, Samantha. You got to celebrate the small wins out here driving in LA. I think the most relevant thing for me that came up was about love. And it's so funny because my whole life I've been so obsessive about relationships, whether I've been in them or not. Like, I'm so good at like building fantasies in my head or, you know, imagining the future or whatever. And I've always low-key kind of like also judged myself for being so obsessive about relationships. I've let go of a lot of that judgment in the last few years because some of that judgment was coming from a place of like wounded leftist white feminism that's like, the thing to be as a woman is a successful business person and that's how you know you've made it in life. And it's like, I mean, yes, but no, because there's a lot more to life than that, including love, which we learn to just like devalue in any kind of serious way that it could like be what our soul is fucking like here to do and develop. So I was judging myself for that a bit. I softened in that in the last couple of years, but I still kind of judge myself for it. And one of the things in Vedic astrology that they are able to really clearly identify is like your soul's fucking obsession. I don't want to call it your soul's purpose or mission because I think it's a little bit more targeted than that. I think it literally the best way to put it is like your soul's obsession. And my soul's obsession in this lifetime is like finding my person, period. And it's like not just someone who makes me happy or that I think is like awesome or that I think is attractive or that I'm like vibing with or whatever. It's like the most intense, deep, spiritual, like blissed out, sexually transcendent relationship that could ever possibly exist in any of the planets and any of the galaxies. That's my obsession. Now, if I'm going to take it a step further, I will also say that obsession also orients to the fact that I know that this person for me is also like a work partner and does, you know, mission-oriented things with me. And so finding them then allows me to perform my mission on Earth more effectively and blissfully. So it does tie into things that are not just about sex and romance and relationships and love. But that's the kicker for me. That's my soul's obsession. And I think, do I want to say this last piece? Yeah, I have 7 more minutes. And then the unhealthy parts of that, because there's lots of actually like really healthy parts of that, but I'm just going to focus on the unhealthy parts for now for a second. For me, related to that are then like my filter through so much of like where I'm putting my energy in life is like, first of all, do I have a partner? Do I think this partner is my ultimate partner? And then how is this partner in measuring, in fulfilling what is like the deepest desires and needs and pleasures, and fulfillment is really the best words that I have. And that's one of the reasons why I've been poly most of my life, is because that's like a lot to fulfill. So it's like kind of unrealistic to think that any one person, except for my one person, would be able to fulfill all of those things. But anyway, so I really like the term PS, just like little tiny sidebar. I really like the term ambyamory to indicate that each phase of our life may hold a different key to the highest expression of our relationship style, whether that's monogamy or polyamory or ethical non-monogamy or primary partnerships or solo poly or whatever the fuck. Okay, back to the main story. So one of the unhealthy parts of that obsession is what I just said, and then that also relates to me looking externally for those things to be provided to me by someone else, i.e. my fulfillment, my bliss, my sexual pleasure, my emotional, fulfillment, like all of that. And so a lot of the work that I was doing this week, regardless of this fucking astrology reading, but then doubled fucking down today, was like, ooh, okay, so I need to go in and love myself deeper, is essentially, what that is saying. It's through the process of self-inquiry and other things and other tools, identifying like what is it that I need and what can I give to myself, and where am I expecting someone else to fulfill what is ultimately my, not just responsibility, but like should be joy. And I don't, should, but can be joy to fulfill. And so I'm trying to make that transition in my life where I'm like putting less expectation and therefore a lot of just like unnecessary disappointment of my own pleasure and fulfillment onto another person, and how do I reorient that back to myself, while I also, by the way, maintain having what is like a wonderful, fabulous, amazing relationship that I'm in right now, and has been a safe enough container for me to be able to even identify this, what could ultimately be interpreted as like emotional and even like sexual codependency. Cool. Way to therapize yourself, Sam. That was very effective. 17 minutes of verbal processing some very deep and complicated things. I think I did an excellent job. Again, you got to celebrate the wins, or at least I do. Do whatever you desire to do. And I'm almost to my location, and I'm excited to be at my location and get this body fed. Okay. Thank you for listening. Thank you for fucking with me. I hope that you found this enlightening and or entertaining. And I hope we continue rocking together. Okay.